Welcome to StopFake, the place where we debunk disinformation about Ukraine and set the record straight. I'm Paul Niland with this week's edition of Russian Disinformation Dissected. Among the stories we examine this week, 45% of Ukrainians work abroad, Ukraine struggles with record high unemployment, Ukrainian electricity prices are the highest in Europe, Ukraine's radio tower broadcasting Russian programs. Russian Defense Ministry television channel Zvezda disseminated a fake story claiming that 45% of all Ukrainians work abroad and the country is struggling with record high unemployment. Official Ukrainian data, however, and the International Organization for Migration, the IOM, tell a completely different story. According to the IOM, some 688,000 Ukrainians are currently international migrant workers. That is approximately 2% of the Ukrainian population. 1,643,000 are internal migrant workers, having moved from their homes to other places in Ukraine because of work. Ukraine's State Statistics Service tracks demographics and migrant workers' movements. The service's annual migration analysis shows that the number of Ukrainians leaving their country in search of work is getting smaller. In 2015, 519,000 Ukrainians left the country to work abroad. In 2016, that number fell to 246,000. According to Ukraine's Labour Service and the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry, at the start of 2017, some 5 million Ukrainians were working outside Ukraine. Zvezda not only claims that 45% of Ukrainians are working abroad, but also states that as of 2013, unemployment in Ukraine grew by 60%. This claim is also completely false. According to the International Labour Association, the current level of unemployment in Ukraine is 9.7%, having gone up 2% since 2013. Ukraine's labour market has been impacted by the Russian annexation of Crimea and the invasion of the Donbas territories, leading to more than 1.5 million people being internally displaced. According to the Russian site Ukraina.ru, Ukraine has the highest electricity prices in Europe, completely twisting a recent statement by Ukraine's National Committee on Utility Regulation Director Dmytro Vovk. Ukraina.ru simply replaced the word cheapest with most expensive. This is what Vovk actually wrote. For years, our politicians have talked about consumer protection. As a result, electricity prices in Ukraine are the lowest in Europe. Our task is to guarantee stability and quality of service. According to a comparative electricity cost analysis by the European statistical agency Eurostat, Ukraine is in last place in terms of electricity prices. Ukrainians pay 5 European cents for a kilowatt hour of energy. Germans on average pay nearly 30 cents and Belgians 31 cents. The average price for electricity in Europe amounts to 17.7 cents per kilowatt hour, considerably more than what Ukrainians pay. This week, both Russian and Ukrainian media announced that a radio tower on the border of mainland Ukraine and Crimea is broadcasting Russian programs. Ukraine's Radio and Television Council, however, says this is not the case. The programs being broadcast are special Russian language programs designated for Ukrainian territories occupied by Russia. Writing in a dismissive and condescending manner, Russian site Pravda.ru declared that a radio tower initially built to broadcast programs about how wonderful life is in Ukraine to Crimea is instead broadcasting Russian programs to Ukraine's southern regions. The news agency Lenta.ru also featured this story. Both Pravda and Lenta cite a regional Ukrainian mayor who said that the tower is not being used as initially intended. He says, "I always have Ukrainian radio turned on in my car, but lately I'm hearing about the weather in St. Petersburg, what's happening in Moscow, and about the occupying forces in Crimea. That's not what we built this tower for. It's now being used by the occupants," he said. Ukraine's Radio and Television Council explained that Russia is not transmitting its radio content using the radio tower in question. Rather, the transmissions are special content programs in Russian language produced by Radio Liberty, a Crimean-focused program called Crimea Realities, and a joint Voice of America and Radio Liberty show called Current Time. Strategic communication expert and former Deputy Minister for Information Policy Tatiana Popova also confirmed that only Ukrainian programs are being broadcast through the newly constructed radio tower. After Russia annexed Crimea in 2014, Moscow cut off all Ukrainian television and radio programs to the peninsula. Ukraine built a transmission tower in the coastal town of Chonga to transmit Ukrainian radio and television programs to the occupied Crimea. The new tower has been operational since March of this year. That's it for this week. You can find more dissected disinformation as well as useful tools for spotting fakes on the StopFake website. Be vigilant, look out for disinformation, and if you spot any fakes about Ukraine, send them to us for a truth autopsy. I'm Paul Niland, and this is StopFake. Thanks for watching.